Marvel tried to portray Thor as the hero and Loki as a side character. No one cared much about Loki, but after the Loki series was released, people became obsessed with him. Now, Marvel is treating Thor like a joke. While Loki's season has made Loki one of the most powerful beings in the MCU, fans were emotional by the end of the season. But how did Loki end up taking Thor's place? Loki's character development is superior. Loki has gone through multiple transformations. Villain in Thor, mastermind in the Avengers, reluctant ally in Thor, Ragnarok, and now a full-fledged hero in Loki. Thor's arc, on the other hand, has remained largely the same, losing his power in Thor, losing his family in Ragnarok, and losing his confidence in Endgame. Compare this to other franchises. Batman constantly evolves in every iteration, while Superman often struggles to escape the Boy Scout persona. Fans love a redemption story, and Loki's transformation mirrors beloved anti-heroes like Zuko from Avatar, The Last Airbender, or Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. Has Thor's character been ruined? Loki's death in Infinity War had more emotional impact. When Loki died at the hands of Thanos in Infinity War, fans were devastated. It felt final, brutal, and meaningful. Thor's response: a short moment of grief before the movie moved on. He didn't even get proper revenge. Stormbreaker didn't stop Thanos from snapping. Compare this to Endgame. Tony Stark's death had weight because we saw its effects on Peter Parker and Pepper Potts. Loki's death had the same impact. While Thor's personal losses never seemed to change him permanently, Loki's death scene is still talked about today. While Thor's arc in Love and Thunder made him more of a joke than a grieving brother, even No Way Home handled grief better. Peter Parker losing Aunt May changed his entire personality. Loki's series is more successful than Thor's movies. Loki is one of the most watched Marvel Disney Plus series, with higher ratings than Secret Invasion, Ms. Marvel, and Hawkeye. Meanwhile, Thor, Love and Thunder was a box office hit, but the audience reaction was mixed. Many fans criticized its overuse of comedy and weak portrayal of Gore the God Butcher. Look at The Dark Knight. People love Heath Ledger's Joker so much that he overshadowed Batman. The same is happening with Loki and Thor. Even in the Loki series, fans were more invested in Loki's interactions with Mobius and Sylvie than they were in Thor's love story with Jane Foster. The Loki finale introduced Kong, the next big bad of the MCU. Meanwhile, Thor 4 set up a Hercules post-credit scene that most fans forgot about. Loki is the only reason Thor 1 and 2 were watchable. Be honest, would you have watched Thor 1 and Thor: The Dark World if Loki wasn't in them? Thor 1 was a standard origin movie, but Loki's emotional conflict with Odin and Thor elevated it. The Dark World is considered one of the weakest MCU movies, but Loki's fake death and betrayal of Malekith were the film's only saving graces. This is similar to the Suicide Squad. Jared Leto's Joker was hyped but didn't work, while Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn carried the film. Loki is Marvel's Harley Quinn, too good to be just a side character. Compare this to the Winter Soldier. Captain America was the lead, but Bucky's arc was the real emotional core, much like Loki in the Thor movies. Loki's popularity is like Joker in The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's Joker stole the show in The Dark Knight, just like Loki has stolen the show from Thor in the MCU. Both characters are unpredictable, charismatic, and have legions of dedicated fans. The Joker didn't need a backstory or redemption to be great, but Loki's additional depth makes him even more interesting. Thor, like Batman, is the traditional hero but without a strong villain or rival. Their movies suffer. That's why Thor, Love and Thunder felt empty without Loki. Even in non-Marvel media, Loki is one of the most merchandised and cosplayed MCU characters. Similar to how Joker remains an icon in DC, Loki is more popular than Thor now. Should he be the face of the MCU? Thor may have once been a top-tier Avenger, but has Marvel accidentally made Loki the true star? As Loki's popularity skyrockets, Thor seems to be falling into irrelevance, with Loki dominating Disney Plus and Thor Love and Thunder receiving mixed reviews. Loki's TVA storyline feels more important than anything Thor has done. Loki literally rewrote the rules of the multiverse. Meanwhile, Thor's last big moment was babysitting a bunch of kids in Love and Thunder. This is like comparing Doctor Strange's role in Multiverse of Madness to Spider-Man's issues in Homecoming. One character is shaping the universe, while the other is just dealing with personal drama. Loki also introduced a TVA, a concept that might be bigger than S.H.I.E.L.D. or even the Avengers in the grand scheme of things. Loki's power level is more consistent than Thor's. Thor's power level is all over the place. He was god tier in Infinity War, yet Endgame turned him into a joke. Then Love and Thunder made him powerful again, until he lost to Gore and had to rely on kids. Loki, on the other hand, has always been a master of deception, illusions, and magic. He doesn't get randomly nerfed for plot convenience. Even in the Avengers, Loki fought Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor at once, yet in Ragnarok, he was treated like a joke. Thor was the strongest Avenger in Infinity War, but was weaker than a random alien dog. Love and Thunder. Compare this to characters like Doctor Strange or Scarlet, which their power levels remain consistent and actually grow over time. Loki's love story with Sylvie is more interesting than Thor's love life. Thor and Jane Jane's romance was one of the weakest parts of the early MCU. Even Natalie Portman admitted she wasn't invested in it. Loki and Sylvie's relationship, though weird because it's technically self-love, had way more emotional weight and real chemistry. Think about other iconic love stories. Would you rather watch Thor and Jane's awkward romance or something compelling like Tony and Pepper, Steve and Peggy, or even Peter and MJ? Sylvie and Loki's interactions felt like a mix of Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Blade Runner 2049, filled with tension, betrayal, and deeper meaning. Thor's romance plots feel forced, while Loki's love story actually contributed to his character growth. Loki is the ultimate underdog. Fans love that. People love an underdog story. Loki was always the outcast, the second best son, the one who had to fight for his place. Thor, on the other hand, was born a prince, gifted with strength, and destined for greatness. This is why characters like Spider-Man, Wolverine, and even Iron Man are more beloved than Superman. Fans relate more to someone who has to struggle. Loki is a better leader than Thor. Thor was supposed to be the king of Asgard, but every time he gets the throne, he either leaves, gets overthrown, or just gives it away. Ragnarok, Endgame. Loki, despite being a trickster, actually took ruling seriously. In Thor: The Dark World, when he disguised himself as Odin, Asgard was stable and the people didn't even notice the difference. Even in the TVA, Loki took control and tried to fix things, while Thor is out traveling space with no real purpose. This is similar to Game of Thrones. Loki is like Tyrion Lannister, a smart underdog who understands leadership, while Thor is like Daenerys, powerful but impulsive. Thor abandoning his people for space adventures was a worse leadership move than Iron Man handing the Avengers over to Steve Rogers. Who would be the better king, Loki or Thor? Loki has more meaningful relationships than Thor. Loki's interactions with Mobius, Sylvie, and even Kang are deeper than Thor's relationships with Valkyrie, Jane, and Korg. Mobius and Loki's friendship in Loki was one of the most heartfelt dynamics in the MCU, far stronger than Thor's forced humor with the Guardians in Love and Thunder. Thor and Loki's brotherly relationship had tension, betrayal, and redemption. Thor and Jane's romance felt forced and shallow in comparison. Think about Captain America and Bucky. That relationship defined Cap's story. Meanwhile, Thor hasn't had a meaningful bond since Loki. Even Loki's friendship with classic Loki and Loki was more emotionally powerful than Thor's entire arc in Love and Thunder. Loki has evolved from a villain to a multiverse savior, while Thor feels like a lost side character. One is shaping the MCU's future, the other is stuck in endless comedy. If this were Iron Man versus Captain America, fans would be at war. But why does Thor get a free pass for being sidelined? Has Loki officially taken over as Marvel's most important character? Or does Thor still deserve to lead? Let's hear it. Who's the real face of the MCU now?